Love, Its Expression, and Varying Beliefs. By Danielle Sainte-Marie. People have all sorts of wonderfully diverse names for love, and for love's many routes through one's daily life as well. God is spoken of with some kind of adventitious surety, as though one stumbled upon the answers to the entire universe by way of handed-down folk tales through their human lineage that came backed by a mighty and mythical, "God has spoken through me," type of revelation. One often experiences miraculous happenings and help from some sort of personified, invisible God and angels, and she or he experiences oppression and trials from demons, when this type of belief is deeply, reverently held. Because of these beliefs, and because of the powerful experiences we have throughout life that help to confirm what we believe, we will often find ample evidence in our lives to help us in whatever we wish to see. Those with the belief in love as a gift given by and or personified by a real God, when these ones fall in love, they might feel that God has brought them their one true love. They will usually believe this with all their hearts. If they go through struggles and pains as a couple, it is God's will. When they go through intense periods of happiness and luminescent love, then that is also seen as God's gift/will. And, you know what? It is very easy to see this, and to feel very deeply that this is true. Now, some experience love in a different way. For these engaging individuals, God is spoken of with casual indifference, and their beliefs come about from either a rejection of, an outright disposal, and or sublimation of God, that is, a turning around of, or a working with what one already has. Or, maybe these persons come from a childhood where one just wasn't exposed to religious beliefs that taught God as a fact. Now, in the latter and former categories we have a wide range of varying beliefs on love and love's many paths that wend throughout the daily course of life. Love may be seen as a force of nature, or maybe a law of the universe. It may be seen as some mystery never to be understood, or maybe it is something that can be termed good, or bad, but isn't really either. Maybe some see it as something that just happens. But, one of the entwining, unifying factors between us all is in our feelings that love is certainly something that has been experienced by us, at least one time. God is capitalized in writings by this latter group usually only when it begins a sentence. They feel that God is not a fact, that is, God is not a real spirit or person, but rather just a concept for a puzzle, like something to help one explain the mysteries of the universe. You see, these groups of people have generally experienced the same type of miraculous experiences as the first group has. The difference is in how they are categorized. In the latter group, when something sort of magical or miraculous happens, it is identified as something that just occurs naturally in the universe. And look, the words used to describe all the various ways that the beliefs in this group will lead to individual interpretation of their experiences will always fail to take in everyone's way of putting things. But, the central belief here is that God is not a fact, and that love, like God, is seen in whatever way you wish to define it. And some may even use the words, a blessing. Some may just smile when they think of their own involvement with love. Everyone will interpret it differently. There are so many other subcategories of each group, that the variations are astounding. But, what amazes me the most is that we all experience this type of feeling, that is to say, love, at some point in our lives. Love does not have to be experienced only as the feelings of a person for another person, it can also be the love for a pet, a hobby, an art, a skill, or something else. It seems to be nearly the same experience in its intensity and yet varies wildly in its interpretation. Love, like so many other things on this planet and in this universe, is a strange thing indeed. Now, I am a woman who has experienced both realms of belief. I began life learning to embody the principles of seeing God as a fact, and, here in midlife, have now come to believe in God as not a fact and yet still a fact, an idea, and or maybe a fundamental law of the universe of some sort. I also believe that everything I just said is inherently unbelievable, which is the only way I can believe in it in the first place. There is no fact that led me to believe in any fact. Now, that gets complicated to understand, I know. So, let me put it like this, when I was younger I saw all the miraculous happenings of my life as coming from God. I really believed this with all my heart, and I prayed anywhere from once to 40 or more times a day. It depended largely on how my day was going. Some days I was so shining with happiness over my connection to God that I would pray 100 times just to talk and say thank you to Him. But, what caused me to go on a search for what this being was that I was communicating with was a simple conversation with a friend's mother that I had when I was 16. It was a conversation that challenged my religious beliefs and one which led me to challenge other ideas as well, which subsequently led me to spend my early 30s in life challenging beliefs of any and all types. Now, for the purposes of this article, I am not going to expound on what the beliefs were that challenged me that day when I was 16, because the purpose of this article is to get us thinking about love and how we interpret life, and not to become self-indulgent. I will put all those other details about my life in my autobiography, The Flight of Danielle. But, the point is that my interpretations of those miraculous events changed throughout my life. I still have the same events happening to me, I just see them differently than I used to, and that's all. I no longer mentally pray, as I consider my entire life as a sort of walking prayer, like something that is in union with the natural world because I am in union with my authenticity, and I no longer have a belief in a personal God. To me, God is a symbol for the mysteries of life, and also not just that, and my beliefs extended beyond the God as fact idea and onto the God as symbol for mystery idea. So, when amazing things happen to me in my life, I just sort of nod and acknowledge a rich life of deep wonder. I don't need to have any other explanation for it. Life is just amazing. And this thought that life is amazing is another idea on which I can probably get a huge worldwide agreement about. Wouldn't you say your life is, at least, interesting on some level? Might you say it was amazing, if you thought in a deeply objective, honest, introspective way, and not be self-deprecating? But then we get back to one of the original points of this article. Isn't what I believe now simply another stop in life, another point to be stumbled by? If I believe that God is not a fact, won't I then be making up an ideological life based upon an optical illusion of my senses so that I may see things as I think or wish they are or could be, just like those people that see God as a fact? Is one any wiser than the other, and is one any more the fool? It seems the answer is yes, and yet no. It is yes in the sense that our beliefs do shape our view of the world we find ourselves in, and it is no, in the sense that in all these beliefs there is an underlying sense of some kind of truth. And what is this truth? This truth is that we all, as human beings, are experiencing some ultimate sort of question, or mystery, that we have no definitive, empirical answer for. Some believe by faith, others are sure of their spiritual sightings, some believe wholeheartedly that they have been abducted by aliens, some have a very pragmatic, realistic approach, some don't question life at all. But, while we all have different interpretations of our experiences, we can hopefully all agree that many humans who have intensely experienced something in life will try to interpret the experience in some way. This is often done through some sort of language, whether it is art, written, spoken or other. The problem is that language, and this also varies depending upon whom you ask, is generally not up to the task of conveying the experience. The best it can do is hopefully trigger a memory or event in the mind of the reader so that the reader can empathize with the writer's emotions, and this comes about most efficiently from a writer who, while writing, was already empathizing with the reader held dearly in her or his careful thoughts. And love, that often thought of as rare feeling, that sort of intangible, succulent, rich happening of life that seems to be the cause of so much heartbreak, tragedy, growth and joy, how does one describe it? Shall I describe it technically, poetically, philosophically, mystically, spiritually, religiously, psychologically, or maybe in some other way? How can one ever truly capture the full essence of an experience so rich and so astoundingly impactful and powerful, that it can lead one not only to a life of constant fulfillment but also to the other extreme of suicidal depression? And, a person can experience both extremes, from suicidal depression to intense joy, while traversing along the path of involvement with only one relationship/love/lover,